So we're with Tony. You're actually the producer of the first add-on, which is going to release next year for Red Orchestra 2, and it's going to be in the Pacific War. So tell us about the game.
Sure. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Rising Storm. It's a mod or an expansion, whichever you want to call it, which is being underwritten by Tripwire. So they've been supporting us a lot here and helping us get together the team for the development of this mod, and giving us the opportunity to release it, again through Steam and through all the different digital outlets which he mentioned. So we're going to be covering in the same way as Heroes of Stalingrad is covering both the German and the Russian perspective on the campaigns and on the battles. We're going to be doing the same thing with the Americans and the Japanese, which is something that perhaps hasn't been done quite so much with Pacific games. Generally, Pacific games focus entirely on the role of the US forces, particularly the Marines. Now, we'd like to bring the US Marines to this. Of course, you have to. You also have to include the US Army. And you have to include the Japanese, the way I see it. You have to represent all the sides there. These are the guys. This is the fighting they were doing. These are the situations that they were in. So we're going to be covering the, if you like, the kind of island hopping. And so there will be, of course, the famous iconic battles, which you'd expect. Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, and so on. Also a few of the lesser-known kind of engagements as well, on the mainland, for example. And some of the other islands which perhaps aren't quite as famous as the ones that have appeared on, like, the Pacific or on the Clint Eastwood films. So, through the campaign mode that you have in Heroes of Stalingrad, we have this good opportunity to represent these battles in a campaign map, island hopping across the Pacific. So yeah, we're looking at release probably, well, I won't say when exactly, but we're looking at release the middle of next year, and bringing the same kind of experience with the single player, the multiplayer, approximately 10 maps, and some new stuff as well, some new weapons and some new types of weapons which feature more in the Pacific theatre than you would see, for example. You wouldn't expect to see these particularly in Stalingrad or somewhere like that. Like
as we see from other games that are based in the Pacific, it's not a lot, but a few of them. What are you guys going to do? Like, how are you going to try to get the atmosphere? Like, there's a really deep atmosphere. Like, if you're on the U.S. side, there's like you fear that any second the Japanese going to jump out of a stone or something. So what are you guys trying to? Well, I guess you're going to have the open maps again. So what are you guys trying to make it? To get a deep atmosphere of the Pacific War.
Right, well, I mean, the environments that you have there can be pretty intense. I mean, a lot of the battles that you would traditionally see represented are, very often it's the Japanese are dug in very, very heavily, and the Americans generally have a lot of technical superiority in terms of, for example, particularly infantry weapons, although the Japanese did have an awful lot of artillery there. As you know, artillery is a big part of Heroes of Stalingrad, and a little bit later on we may get a chance to show you some of that gameplay featuring the artillery, which is pretty awesome. It's quite nice to pull in the stick of artillery. There are a lot of features that we do have to consider in this gameplay, a lot of features relating to the, if you like, the weapons loadouts, and of course the particular gameplay mechanics that go with Heroes of Stalingrad, because we're building off of that engine. So, excuse me. One of the things that we have been looking at is how are we going to give the Japanese something to counteract the fact that, generally speaking, the American soldiers, generally speaking, had better weaponry. They had a wider range of weaponry than the Japanese. And I wouldn't like to say too much about this yet, because a lot of it is very heavily dependent on what we're going to be able to develop with the code, with the animations as well. I mean, one of the things that we're finding a challenge is the fact that there are just so many animations in Heroes of Stalingrad. We have to So we have to obviously develop a lot of animations ourselves as well to go with that. So I don't really want to commit to too much here, saying too much right now. But obviously, you know, that is our main concern. How are we going to make the Japanese playable, and how are we going to make them fun to play as well, and how are we going to represent them in a realistic manner? And we devoted a lot of research to that.
So are we going to get hands-on like weapons like a flamethrower or heavy MGs and bunkers, or maybe even, are we going to have katana swords in there for running through the US line and slicing through the guys?
Well, we've had certainly a lot of suggestions regarding things that people would expect to see there, and we can certainly confirm that flamethrowers will be in there. I think if you've got a lot of Japanese dug into a bunker, then you need some way of digging them out, and the flamethrower is obviously a very good tool for doing just that. Regarding emplaced heavy machine guns, we already have that in Heroes of Stalingrad. There are emplaced machine guns. We may well have a chance to look at that in just a few minutes. So that's also obviously going to feature. I mean, one of the very iconic weapons on the Japanese side was the Model 92 heavy machine gun, which the Americans called the Woodpecker, because of the sound it made. It's a very distinctive sound. I'd just like to mention on that subject, by the way, some of the sounds that we're going to be using. A lot of our team have come from various mod communities, and we've got a very good guy doing the weapon sounds for us. And I'm kind of looking forward to our media updates. We're going to be updating pretty much every month following the release of Heroes of Stalingrad, and at some point we will be doing a feature on some of the new weapons, including the, I have to say, pretty awesome sounds that we're expecting from these.
So yeah, thank you for the interview, and yeah, definitely when it's out, check out Red Orchestra 2, and next year, yeah, the add-on, you could say.
Come and see risingstormgame.com. You can take a look at the latest news about us there. Thanks.
Thank you.